All right, hello, hello, hello. Back in the career game here. We're gonna go ahead and keep rocking and rolling, making some money. Did some career yesterday. Went ahead and did a workshop episode and worked on some builds. Main things I did was work on a new train car for coal. We're having some issues running into yesterday with the career game where each train car had so many sub bodies. I think it was like 9 sub bodies per train car, and then we had 9 train cars, so 49 sub bodies minimum, and just caused a little bit of slowdown. So these have fewer sub bodies. Also, just noticed that we spawned in. We have new containers. People were asking how you get new containers. This is one of the ways. Is when you save your game and then you reload it, it's a good time for the game to refresh containers. So I'm just going to look at these. I'd like to get some containers going. Sawyer North's too far for us now. Sawyer North. JSI is way too far. Komodo. We could do a Komodo. It's only $2 grand, but we could do some truck stuff, which would be fun. FJ Warner's is way too far. If you look at the time on these, it's 125 minutes, so it's a lot of time. This is where I like to get into home ships, so Triton or Tethys, where you can load containers in the home ship. The home ship goes off on autopilot towards the destination, and then if a mission pops up along the way, you can take your helicopter, you can go do a mission, you can take your rescue boat, go do a mission, and so you can do multiple things at once. That's a north. And BVG. BVG's way up in the Arctic, so I do have some vehicles that could fly those, but I'm not going to do that. Komodo, we can take this Komodo here. There's a vehicle I figure we can use. I'm trying to use more of my older vehicles too. I just don't have the time to build brand new stuff. But I definitely can, bring something up and update it if it needs it. Improve it, and then use that. So we got a bunch of vehicles we could use for this. I think what I want to use. Let's look. Made a four-wheeler last night, one cylinder. I've been really wanting to make a one-cylinder vehicle, and that's it. So that was nice to be able to do. Usually one cylinders are pretty difficult because they just don't have much power. Container pups. A tilt tray pup would be interesting. We could do a tractor trailer, or we could do it with this. Let's do it with this truck here. There are some issues with the table on this I want to solve too. It's a little bit glitchy at times, so I need to solve for this issue, but this was my example for one of my challenges. When I would do challenges, I would often build alongside as a kind of to make sure it was going to work. You make sure that the rules are going to be doable for people. So we'll go do this, drop this container off. I don't know if I want to buy Komodo. I'm leaning towards no, because it doesn't really give me much more benefit. The only benefit is spawning vehicles, that's it. Which is a pretty big benefit, but it's not huge. I think maybe it's the yellow one, I'm not sure. I like that how you can actually hear the air brakes go, too. That's neat. That's the one, Komodo here. Alright. I like the devs to do on the Q&A. I've been doing a really good job with the updates. A new Q&A would be cool. Alright, so tilt table on this. is up with this here? What is going on here? I don't know what this is about. Oh, this didn't connect, is what I think it is. Huh. I'll have to look at this. That doesn't look like it connected right. That could be part of my problem there, because this linkage is supposed to be connected. So it didn't connect. Alright. We'll look at it later. Alright, that's connected. Alright, so you want to level the container like that, as you can see. Let's get a picture. Kind of often take random pictures, and I don't know what I'm going to do yet, so this is kind of good when I can take an actual picture that kind of shows what the episode's doing. I'll have to change them after that. Alright, good. That's all locked up. Alright, we're good to get out of here. So, I'm going to put it on my to-do list here, fix this. Hey, how's it going there, Jay? Good to see you. Alright, let's see. Workshop to do. Or, let's see. Builds to fix. Alright, let's see. Table. Container. Truck. And then I need to do the lifting mechanism. Alright. Let's get out of here. This one is having some, I think there's not enough weight on the front axle. That was an issue I had with this at one point, so I gotta kind of keep an eye on that and see if I want to fix that or work on that. Not a ton of cash on these. It's tough. It's tough to balance everything, you know. The way different people play, you know, and the amount of time they want to spend doing stuff, and then, you know, the economy's kind of tough with the fact that, you know, helicopters as a vehicle, IRL, are incredibly expensive. Like, even small personal, like, 4-person helicopters can cost you $1 million. You know, and a truck like this might cost you, say, $150,000, $200,000. And, you know, maintenance and licensing and all that is much, much cheaper. Training, pays, things like that are much cheaper. You can hear some pivot trying to move around, so I gotta try to figure that out. Because this had a phantom force, I might have figured it out, so I gotta fix it. And so, you know, IRL, a helicopter is prohibitively expensive. In game, you can make a helicopter that costs as much as a truck, and of course, there's not all the regulatory, you know, associated fees in game. So, plus the helicopters in game can lift unreasonably heavy loads, and so, and you don't have, you know, half the things you have to worry about IRL. Like, for example, like, you wouldn't want a helicopter hovering over the top of you, dropping containers off. You'd be blowing detritus all over the place with the rotor wash. You know, it'd be incredibly loud. You know, there's this funny video from the 50s, and it's a husband goes out, and he's got his 1950s hat on, and he's out there in a helicopter to go pick up milk. And so the wife walks out the back door and goes and stands like inches under the rotor blades. And he has this little basket on the front of the helicopter with milk in it. So he made a run out to the grocery store to get milk for his wife, and the wife, like, walks under the rotor blades, like inches from the rotor blades, and is like, and then they have like a pretend conversation like you'd ever be able to hear. And so, you know, it's like, would you want that in your neighbor's yard, a helicopter hovering there to just drop off milk as the husband and wife shot the shit. It's like, no, so it's just like, so of course it's, and that's the cool part about the game too is, you can do some fantasy stuff, which is neat. You can do stuff like, go fly a helicopter and move a container, which is neat. But, it's kind of where you have to put on your own guardrails in game where, like, they're trying to balance it where, like, somebody can take a helicopter and move a container in a very short period of time. And so, you have to kind of balance the money for that as well. And so, of course, the truck's going to take longer. And some people are always trying to do whatever makes them the most money per hour. I think the best thing to do is do what's most fun to you. And so for me right now, I don't want to fly a helicopter over there. It's, it's not realistic, but I do it sometimes. But it's more, I want to play with a truck, so I'm using a truck. So as long as the money on these containers is reasonable, where it still makes you a profit, which it will, that's all I'm really concerned about. I'm not hurting for money right now in games, so I can, easily go do this. But it's tough to balance, and that's where, like, some of the money makers in game that seem either ridiculously low or ridiculously high, it's tough to balance. It really is. Like some of those tow missions, I saw somebody on Reddit posted a picture of, like, them towing a boat going, like, 80 miles an hour. And it's ridiculous. The boat's flipping and spinning and everything else. Well, of course, in real life, you wouldn't want to do that because, the goal's not to destroy the boat you're towing. But, it's people play how they like, and they want to go racking some cash doing that. That's fine as well. A little silly, but, sometimes people like to do silly things. We're going a good 83 miles an hour, too, so we're cooking. I would like it if the land bridge extended. I don't know. It's tough. I think there's some times where you want to be able to get everywhere with every form of transportation. I think that's also a problem. I think that was one of the issues with the rail. Like, I don't think the rail should go up to the Arctic. I think the Arctic should be segregated to boats and airplanes. And that makes it so you have to use boats and airplanes. I get why they did it initially before, where we didn't have the arid biome. Now the arid biome is very close. I'm also not a huge fan of the train going down to the arid biome. Now that we can disconnect train cars, that was, if you look at FJ Warner, there are train tracks that go into the water like you'd be able to load a train onto a boat. That'd be kind of cool to load your train cars onto a ship and then bring them over. But again, a lot of these things would take hours, and a good contingent of the player base is not going to put up with anything that takes any real amount of time to do. So it's a balancing act, and I, like everyone else, have to kind of realize, the game's not just for me, and, yep, this thing doesn't work with the way I play, but I'm happy it works with the way somebody else plays, and there are plenty of elements that work with how I like to play. You can hear a pivot keep moving. That could be part of the Phantom Force I'm having. Alright, that's delivered. Oh, you know what it is? No, it's not the shifter. I thought it was the shifter. I think I have a disconnect button on here. Yeah, see how that's supposed to be the mechanism to make it look like that's moving. It's not working, so I gotta fix that. This can also take cars. It has a winch on there, so it's also flatbed for cars. Let's go see if we can find a container. This is obnoxious where these are now. You see they're on this side of the track, and the track is very tall, so. Sawyer South. South. FJ. North. Okay, can't take any of those. If we did own this base, I'd be able to despawn this, do something else. Let's see where we're at money-wise. We get... What is up with my money? Did I load the custom game? I did. I loaded the wrong game. Oh, well. All right, let's load the right game. I shouldn't have done that. That's all right. We'll count that as a test. I'll give myself $2,000, or I most likely just won't care. But I loaded the wrong game. I went through and I deleted. I had many gigabytes. Let me look. I have it still up of how many gigs of saves I had. Oh, it's still counting. Holy mother. It's a lot of gigabytes of saves. It's still counting. It's currently at 4 gigabytes of saves. The save data, okay, so it's 4.18 gigabytes is how big my save file was. And let's see what it is now. 158 megabytes. So you can see how much difference there is. All right, that makes more sense. So we have 217, so we could buy that. We have plenty of money. See that? I was wondering what was up with the new containers. I thought it was because of the new save, because this place artificially had a low number of containers. Let's see. Komodo, that's pretty good for Komodo. 9,200, we're doing that one, I'll tell you that much. What's Komodo? 80? So part of, like, if you think, oh, there's 2. That's a lot. We're gonna do both of these. All right. All right, so Lyra, let's do this real quick. All right, so we're gonna buy Komodo when we get over there. This is a good bit of money. That's 92. And that is, yeah, so that's a lot. That's 19.6 for 2 containers. How's it going there, Casper? How are you? Good to see you again. Yeah, that's good money. We're going to use that. Let's first try to fix this truck problem I was having. I should have stayed in the custom game, but it's not a big deal. We'll spawn this up and see if I can fix this. All right, so let's look at the mechanism here. So the mechanism... All right, so here's our piston, and our piston pushes, it hooks to this linkage, and then it pushes on the rod, which then should be connected to the table. And then I don't know why this has no top on it there. All right, let's go ahead and spawn this and check it. All right, so now the mechanism is connected. All right, so see how it's having see how it's having phantom forces? So there's something on there. Let's check the extension of the piston. That should be all right. So that's digging in the top there. So this is a real type of mechanism where you're essentially, you would need a very long piston to push this like this. So what you're doing is you're pushing on this bottom cradle. The cradle goes this way, and then this rod is connected to the cradle so that you can push the cradle a very short distance to get the upper rod to move further. And by shortening this rod, we should shorten the throw of it. bunch of cool things with the mechanics of how use the pivots and everything to change the length and the distance of these things. The other thing we could do, no, that can't be done. All right. All right, so see how it's now not acting the fool? So what we can do is put a limit on this as well. Still behaving. Starting to shake. See how it's starting to shake? And so you can even see it. See right here? See how the pivot, it's starting to push this linkage back. All right, and so that's causing us a phantom force. As I go down, it's allowing that to come back in line a little bit more, and we don't get that phantom force. Ideally, I want that back to touch the ground. So it's like a lot of these things, it's, again, crying, physics sucks, like you see a lot of people do. It's pretty silly, frankly, is at the end of the day, you've got the game, you get the way it works. The best thing to do is to work within the constraints of it and to not just complain all day about it. And so, could XYZ be better? Yes, but the better thing to do is like understand that yes, you're doing something where you're trying to stretch something that it has no code to tell it to bend. And because it can't bend, which is what it would do IRL, right? Your hydraulic piston would destroy it and bend it. All right, so now you see we don't have the shaking anymore. And it's not going down as much. So likely we're ramming this into something in the back. Okay, right here. See where we're hitting the speaker? So that was the problem with the shaking. The rocking back and forth. We were forcing the table into the speaker. We were trying to put two blocks into one another, which causes a force, right? And the force has no code to tell it what to do, so it works in that direction. Now you can see we have a shaking piston. So I'm going to move the head back out too, and I'm going to move that speaker, and that should help. But again, understanding what phantom forces are, why they're there, and how to correct them, it really will help make it easier for you to, build the things you want and enjoy the game without having strange results. Running to Reddit and posting that, oh, my ship's doing rolls is silly and fun, maybe, but at the end of the day, it's really not accomplishing anything. It's just kind of being silly. At the end of the day, like, if you want to play within the constraints of the game and how you need to play to make it work. All right, let's see. I'm trying to find a place to put this. Okay, speaker. I know it's edgy and cool to be like, herder, look at this glitch, but it also doesn't really do anything for you. All right, so that's where I've been trying to find this problem for a while in this build, but I haven't used it in a while. So the table here was slamming into the speaker, and neither of them could move, so it was causing that rocking motion. All right, so now see what just happened? See how this part of the piston, this part of this rod, watch what happens when I relieve the pressure. It's making this pivot out of alignment, and so watch what happens. See how it's coming down? So we're pushing too far, and so that's the phantom force right there. All right, and once we get rid of it, the phantom force stops. Now, are we touching the ground? Not really. I'd like to go up a little bit further, so I'll move the rod forward a little bit. That's probably why I had the rod as far forward as I did. Because so essentially, the longer this rod is... Let me just get this here. The longer this rod is, let's put it all the way back out to the front. the shorter the throw of this section here. The pink section doesn't have to go as far if the rod is longer. And so that's allowing us to correct for that problem. So it's very interesting to me, the kind of the mechanics of how they do hydraulics and these push rods and everything. So, like, look at how high the trailer is and see how small the movement of this section is, the one that was pink in the editor. That's why you have this really long rod, is it allows you to move this section very small because you're drawing an arc like this, right? So this is arcing, and then you draw the coinciding arc of the rod. And if the rod's short, right, let's say the rod was short like I had it for a second there, this part here needs to draw a very big arc. So you need a very long cylinder, which we don't. We can't make bigger cylinders in game. We don't have longer throws. So what you do is you make this rod longer and this one shorter, and then this one can stay within its travel limit, and it can push something in a much larger arc. So, like, see how small the movement of this now is and how high our trailer already is? All right, and then, so it's dancing a little bit. Let's go down till it stops. All right, so now it's stopped dancing. And let's look. We're pretty much where I want to be. So let's look at the pivots right here. So these pivots are actually what's turning it. So that's 0.26. So what we're going to do is limit that to 0.26. We're going to find the connection of that. All right, table raised lower right there. All right, right here. So it's going up to what? Huh. 2.6 right there. All right, so now we've got a limiter on there. So I should be able to go all the way up, and it doesn't start getting phantom forces. So you can see how that works. So there's some other cool mechanics in here of what you... why is this coloring all look weird? Anyway, there's some other cool things you can do, right, from a mechanical perspective. So one way, let's say I wanted to make this table, the lifting mechanism on this table, I want to get the table to go up higher, right? Here, let's take a quick picture. I'll go off into paint for just 2 seconds. But I find the mechanics of all this very fascinating. So it's, and again, you kind of want to make this work, and especially like the pivots are doing all the work. The pivots are doing all the work. It's just for show, all the pistons and everything, but it looks better. It looks right. It looks the way it would be IRL. So, like, one way you can make this table go higher, right, is we only have, this is our limiting factor, the cylinder. IRL, you could just buy a longer cylinder, right? And one of the reasons they'll do these things like these rods in these carriages is that you can use a wider, shorter piston that has more power and is less likely to bend. You do a long, skinny piston, it could bend, right? So if you look at this, let's draw some circles here. Outline shape of a circle. And then I want a dotted line, and let's do that color's fine. So essentially, if you look at the pivot, right, this is where this carriage is pivoting here. So if we go ahead and let's change that to 20. So if you look here, that right there is, let me stretch it a little bit. So if we look right there, right, we put the center of this in the, gotta find the center here, right there, where the pivot point is, which is right here, and we stretch it out to where the arm is, the armature there, and then what we'll do is we'll come in about the halfway point, and we'll delete it out. That's the arc of this part here, right? And so that arc there is can inform where this can go in its travel. All right, and then you have the arc of this section here where the top is going to be, right? And so as you're pushing this forward, right, if this were able to go all the way up to the top right here, right, this rod would be straight, and we know how high we could get because we would measure how long is it from here to here, and how long is it, or from here to here would be better, and then how long is the rod from there to there, and then you know how high the table will get. The other thing you do is say I want this table to go up higher. Well, I would reverse this. And I would put all of this over here, or I just use pistons, and the pistons could be way down here at the bottom, right? But if you understand how easy it is to lift something, right, the longer the lever arm, right, the more force you have. So you could use a smaller piston by picking it up out here than you could down here. And you'll see this on some dump trucks is they need insanely large pistons because they're pushing way back here really close to the pivot point, which is back here. And so by using something like this, you can use less force, right? We have to push the smaller carriage a very short distance. We can use a stubby, powerful piston and then a long rod to pick it up out here, and it requires less force. It's kind of like when you lift a wheelbarrow, right? The wheel is the pivot point, which is what is right here. And because the handles are way back, you try to get your hands as far back to the handles as you can. You can lift 400 pounds in a wheelbarrow, right? Now try to go lift, move your hands, say, 6 inches forward on the wheelbarrow handles. That same 400 pounds is going to be much harder to lift. We don't have to worry about too much in game, but this is why these things look correct, is because this is going to require less force to push this carriage a short distance, use a rod, and do it way out here than it would be to do, like we could do 2 pistons right here, or we could flip this carriage around, we could do it right here, but we would need a much, much stronger hydraulic system. So just very fascinating. I find that stuff very neat. All right, good. So that's fixed up. Let's go ahead and drop it. I don't need to drop it. I'll just bring it back to the workbench. All right, let's see. All right, small container, Class B backup. All right, let's do this one. All right, good. I'm trying to put things like container in the name, so when I'm looking for a container hauler, I have it. It makes it easier. One of my favorite builds ever is the crab, because the crab is tiny, tiny remote control and can move all of the containers. It's pretty neat. All right, so here's the side loading trailer. This is what I think I'm going to take. I also think, let's see. I think the slide axle takes 1. Slide axle is, okay, so I'm going to put that on my to-do list. I'm going to make a workshop to-do list, and 1 is slide axle. Update to TTIS 2. Mark 2. There's some things I want to change on TTIS that I got to do too. So let's see. Fix TTIS. Blowout valve. On park. So when it's on park, it's supposed to, when you still have the airline connected, it's supposed to not have the blowout valve done. So I got to come up with a system for that. This one will take 1 container, the slide axle. So let's keep looking. I'm just trying to see what I have. And I'm getting pretty old once I go past here. Like you can see how much container business is doing. I'm going to go through at some point. I've got my vehicles folder, many copies. I'm going to go through and get rid of duplicates and junk at some point. All right, we're going to use this side loading container trailer. All right. That needs to go to TTIS Mark II. See, that won't work because that's not on TTIS Mark II. Let's just do that now. I'm going to do this. I know it's obnoxious, but we're going to do it. Let's go ahead and load up the custom game again. My loads are pretty fast. And then we'll giggity. And and then we'll I'll go run and get a coffee while we're doing this. And then I'm going to fix a couple of these builds so that they're up to date. I'll fix TTIS. Hopefully it doesn't take too long, and then we can go do this mission, this container move. All right, very nice. I'm back. All right. What are you guys up to today there, Jay and Casper? All right, let's go fix this. These. I like accessories. I like trailers. I like things like those. I find those to be a lot of fun. All right, so here's the side load trailer. So the way these work is they sling load with these cranes, and they're kind of neat to work with. So it needs TTIS. Let's see what it has on it for now. All right, this is TTIS. I need TTIS Mark II. Let's go ahead and I'm going to bring up TTIS Mark II. All right, here's TTIS Mark II. It's Tractor Trailer Integration System is what it stands for. All right, so we have a problem here where when I set the parking brake, the blowout valve is supposed to open, but it's also... See, I don't have a valve before that. So let's see if I have something for connected. That's the trailer. All right, so I have no way to tell if the trailer is connected. All right, so I should put something that when the trailer is... let me look at these real quick. That is lighting, TTIS Mark II trailer. All right, so let's go through TTIS. TTIS needs to be updated. So what we can do here, too, is I can knock a node. Let's not be ridiculous here. I don't want to have to reconnect all these, so let's not be too precious about where these go. I'm going to be precious about where these go. All right, let's do that. And then we have service brakes, brake valve, blowout valve goes there. And then light cord. Then we're going to add a node here. I'm going to do this like 9 times, watch. All right, that's going there now. And this is going to be King. Kingpin. So the kingpin is the pin that attaches the trailer to the tractor. And the jaws wrap around the kingpin. And so what we're going to do is kingpin, if the kingpin's connected, the blow-up valve's not going to open. Because right now, let's walk you through TTIS and show you how the trailer section works. So we have a light cord. That's how you get your lights, IRL. And so this is also going to pass information. And we need to be able to pass information because the way it works in real life is air will travel from one section to the other. I would need a shitload of valves. Valves take up 4 blocks. So the way we could do it is off of air supply, IRL. You don't, you have spring valves that will automatically close when the air pressure drops. We don't have those in game. I have to do a bunch of coding. So what we kind of do is almost cheat with the light cord where we can pass information through the light cord. And so the light cord comes through. 31 is the, what is 31 again? Shit. The hell is 31? The trolley brake. 31 is the trolley brake. So the trolley brake is a little handle in the tractor. Let's see if I can find a picture. Try to find a picture of a trolley brake here. I'm telling you, searches are getting worse and friggin' worse. They really are. All right, here's a pic I can work with. All right, so we look here in the cab on this Mac here. There's a handle right here. That's your trolley brake, and that controls just the brakes of the trailer. So you do this in a couple reasons. One, when you want to make sure that your trailer is attached to you and attached to you well before you drop it on the ground. I've seen many people drop them on the ground. And so one way you do that is you hold down the trolley brake, or you get moving a little bit. You just let up on the clutch a little bit, start to move, and then just pull down the trolley brake a little bit, and the trailer brakes only will actuate and stop you. And then if the trailer was to come off, it would do it then. And if, as you feel the trailer start to come off, you can slam on the brakes and the trailer won't fall on the ground. And so that's one thing you do. The other thing is you pull that handle if, for example, say you're in snow and the trailer starts coming to the side of you as you're stopping, you would pull on the trolley brake to just actuate the brakes of the trailer and let the tractor keep going forward, and the tractor is going to pull the trailer back behind it because now the trailer is trying to go slower than the tractor. And so that's the trolley brake there. 2 is... Two is the seat. So that's going to be the S component of the seat. So we brake it here, and then we use actual air pressure. As we press on the brakes, it's going to let air pressure from the reservoir tank, which stores air, into the brake tank, which is what would actually actuate the brakes, IRL. And then it uses the pressure that's in the brake tank to actually actuate the brakes. So then we go to our blowout valve, right? So here's our blowout valve. And this is, so what the blowout valve does is you take your air pressure from your storage tank, and it goes to your brake tank, your brake can, which actuates the brakes. Once you take your foot off the pedal, though, you need to get that air out of there, or else the brakes are going to stay on, right? So you take your foot off the pedal, and then it shuts the valve from the reservoir, so no new air can go in the brake can, and it opens a valve that lets the air blow out because it's at high pressure from the can, and that's when you hear the truck come to a stop and it goes, tss, right? You're putting your foot on the brake, and then you're letting your foot off the brake a little, and some of that air is escaping. That's one of the air noises. The other one is when you fill your tank, your reservoir tank to full. Once you get to certain pressure, it blows out any more air there, and the air doesn't go in. So what we want is when I set the parking brake, I do want the blowout valve to open. I don't necessarily need it to even the blowout valve to open. Let's see. All right, so so channel 11 is the trailer supply. So what you're doing is when you give air to the trailer, you release the parking brake. And then when you put your foot on the pedal, you add air on the other side to actuate the brakes. When you set the parking brake, you're letting the air blow out of the system so that the spring brakes will come on, and that protects it so the trailer can't roll down the hill if it loses all air pressure. So when your tractor is parked, there is no air pressure in the brakes. It's springs holding the brakes on. So what's happening here is it's putting the parking brake on, which does the brake valve here. And then we have the blow-up valve. So when the park brake is on, it's going to open the blow-up valve. But the problem is until I disconnect it from the trailer, air is coming through the trailer and going into the brake. And so what's essentially happening is I have air going from the tractor into the reservoir. The valve is open, going through the valve into the brake can. The blow-off valve's open, so air is just blowing right through, and I want to stop that. So the best way to do it is when the tractor brake is on, the blow-off valve should be open, and the brake valve should be closed. So I'm trying to think. Let's try this. I gotta think through this a second, so let's see. So ideally I want the brake valve, let me look. I want the brake valve to be closed and the blow-off valve to be open on park brake. Yeah, that's what I want. That's fine, but I need to... I gotta see how I'm park braking this real quick. Because I'm doing it with service brakes. I don't want to overcomplicate this either, because I want to put this in the trailer. I don't want to spend all day doing this either. I'm trying to think. All right, so one of the reasons why this is a knot as well is once we disconnect the light cord, let's do this. All right, good. So one thing is when we disconnect the light cord, we're going to get a 0 value on this. So instead of doing a kingpin, what I'm going to do is this. We're going to add park brake, and we do the park brake differently. All right, park brake. All right, so the park brake's going to be done differently when, so right here, when 11, which is if I press supply, it shuts the brakes off. When that's not done, the brakes go on. And so that will put the parking brake on when that's not on. And then we just need to work the valves. So when the parking brake is set, that's going to be brake, valve, park is going to be 0. So that's going to be closed when let's do 0.1. No. I can do this in a sneaky way. I can do this sneaky way. So the sneaky way is this, right? We have, nope, that's not gonna work. All right. Okay, that's fine. So we can do a leak. There is a leak IRL that when you are parked, you're gonna leak some air. So what I'm trying to do is a real slow leak. So let's do 0, 1. And then that's good. That should fix my problem because I want it to work realistically too. And that's part of my thing is I want the system to work realistically. And now we have a park brake node. Let's finish this update up. And what we're going to do is go through and it's going to be a little bit laborious. But as you can see now, we can really shrink panels because of that update. So what I'm going to do is try to get them fixed. And then I don't know what I just moved. I got to find it. Our right rear directional is right here. All right. And then that is brake reservoir. All right, so this is the, let's see, that's the brake reservoir. That's the brake can. Brake can. Air reservoir tank, okay. And that's going to be pressure, goes there. Service brakes trailer. That goes down to the wheels. All right, so I'll walk you through this real quick. So we have air comes into a compressor in the tractor. This front section is the truck. So it comes in, it pumps it in, and pressurizes this tank. When we want to apply our brakes, this valve lets some of this high-pressure air into this tank, which then reads out and sets the brakes. So the more air pressure you have in this tank, the more your brakes are on. Once you let your foot off the pedal, this valve closes, this valve opens, lets the air bleed out. Now the pressure goes down and your brakes come off. And that's why in tractor trailers, it takes you a second when you take your foot off the pedal for the brakes to release. So you got to let your foot off the pedal, then the brakes take a couple seconds to release, especially if you have two trailers behind you. That back trailer, it takes a while for the brakes to come off. So if I look at the traffic lights and as the other direction goes yellow, I'll take my foot off the brake, because the brakes are still going to be actuated in the back, and it takes a couple seconds for the brakes to release, and then by the time my light turns green, I'm ready to go. And then the air goes through a hose into the trailer. It's going to go in from here, and it goes into the storage tank, and it stores there, and it does the same thing. Then it branches off here so that if I have two trailers, it goes out here through this that section there. So that should fix that. That's reduced in size. Let's fix this. This is our big lighting panel, so we can go like that. Okay. Now let's see what got disconnected. The work light, which is fine. The work light's just a light that you turn on so you can see the trailer, and that one is brake lights. And that's fine. That goes to the tractor, so that doesn't even need to be plugged in. I like that. All right, good. So I think this is cleaned up, and this will work well. Again, another good thing with them updating this is I would have had to add spots, which luckily this stuff doesn't take up much room. All right, good. So let's go ahead and work on this container trailer. Let's bring in TTIS Mark II. And check the date, make sure that's today. That is. All right, good. And I think I'm going to push it up forward so I can just much more easily delete it. I'm actually going to go like this. Because I don't need any of that. Alright, that's good there. And then let's look at the plumbing. So if you look, I used to just fake everything through the light cord. Stuff's not faked anymore. Everything is real. So this is hydraulics here. So I don't always need hydraulics, but I've also come up with a cool system for from the pressurization update where you actually pump liquid through, and that liquid pressurizes in the tank, and it acts like the actual piston, the cylinder of a piston. And so what it's going to do is, as the pressure builds, you then send a signal to a piston or a pivot or whatever you're using, and that's what actually actuates it. Let me read some chat here. Kind of funny compared to real world, the simple handbrake needs a microcontroller. Yeah, I'm not sure what you're saying, Casper, there with missing something. Let's see. All right, so what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna these are the controls. Those have to stay. I have a different lighting system on this now, so this is part of the reason I like doing modular parts like this, is I can just go through, and this whole bumper is getting put on like that. It also makes so I don't have to connect stuff. Well, I'm doing more modular stuff. You see how much easier that is to connect? And it has hard points for road railing and doing other stuff. Yeah, see how I used indicators on those? They're kind of gross. These are the highlights. These are on top, so these only apply when you're using a box trailer. Those are the top lights. You don't need those anymore. You see how making these things modular makes it much easier? Why is that not wide enough? Is this trailer wider than my other stuff? Huh, I gotta see what the width on this trailer is. This one's set up right. I don't know what this deal is. Huh. .11 wide is where they're supposed to be. So I won't need the hydraulics on this one. I'm gonna leave them on there for now, though. Yeah, I screwed that up. That's why that was like that. I screwed up the grab. Okay, that's all it was. This didn't get grabbed. That's all that was. Yep, perfect. All right, I was confusing myself there for a second. I'm gonna leave the hydraulic hoses on there. I won't use them right now, but I have it on my truck, on some of them for dump trucks, where you have to hook the hydraulics from the tractor up to the trailer, and then you actually have to pump the fluid through to make it work. So it's kind of cool. All right, good. So that's all connected there. Light core doesn't need to plumb anywhere. This is where we start to have some fun. All right, so it's right here on this arm. So those ropes are for attaching the sling. So what I've been doing is putting these up front. It's not really where they go, but All right, good. So there's the air running. So again, we're using actual air from the tractor to actually actuate the brakes like you would in the real system. I would like them to make some of these valves smaller. That would really make this more compact and easier to do. All right, so there's all the componentry there. And then what we're going to use is the problem I have is this, those are all paint blocks, so I have to cut through the center section, which is fine. So we'll just go back to the center section here. And what we'll do here is we'll cut out this. And we want it right here, actually. Could go ahead of it, too. That's fine. I'll go right there is fine. Trying to get where I can be here. What is that? That is a micro. I can go up top here. That's fine. So what this is doing here is this is the actual air hose for this is a 53-foot trailer. I think Canada's the only place you can run dual 53s. But it puts a valve on the back so that if we wanted to hook two trailers up, we could do that. So again, this is the part like if I wanted to do some unrealistic stuff where I'm like hauling dual 53s, or we could just RP it real easy is like in this world, we're able to run dual 53s. We can do that. All right, so I like this that we actually have, you know, air being plumbed through and making the trailers work. I think that's fun. It's extra work, but that's what, you know, makes the build more entertaining as far as I'm concerned. All right, this, all right, let's do this. It's not realistic for a 53 to have that anyway, and then I'm going to run into problems with that's a support leg. And it's becoming a little bit annoying that to try to do this. So what I think I'm going to do is this will not support a trailer going out the back. It doesn't need to. If these are 28-foot trailers, I would do that because you'd want to be able to have two. What is this? Okay, that's the ropes. All right, good. So that's there, and then we just need micros in here. Let's look at what we have. That's Tita's trailer. You see how big that is compared, and that's booms. So the booms need to stay there. Tita's trailer can go. Let's hook everything up to first before I start moving it. Service brakes are what they call the regular brakes. So in this case, variable brakes. All right, good. That's going to be the park brake. So this is something new I'm introducing to TTIS is actually having park brake, because before I was just using variable brake, and part of that was due to I didn't want the panel huge. And so now with the stacking, that makes it easier. Air brake pump. All right, this is the tractor. We don't need that at all. We just need the trailer components. Make sure everything's connected. That's all the directionals connected. Let's go in here. What is that? Seat panel. All right, so that is going to come off of the light cord. So the light cord, okay, this is the old light cord, that goes. And the light cord goes to here for this. All right, good. So let's go put these in the back. Let's do this. There we go. All right, good. So that should hopefully be hooked up to that. Let's go ahead and take a walk through and check electricity now. So light cord's going to plug in all this. Light cord gives you all the electricity now. Kingpin should not give any electricity anymore. Should all be through the light cord. The kingpin, again, is that pin you connect to. These need to be electrified, and they are through the back, but we'll do this as well. I don't have my current crank mechanism on here. I'm not going to take the time to do that. That is what? Hardpoint. Hardpoint is a battery, so we don't want the battery to connect. What is the hardpoint all about there? Oh, it's the leg. I gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's a battery, so we don't want that to connect to things we don't want powered. All right, and then what is this? Those are hard points. Those are good. That's good. I think we're pretty clean here. All right, let's save it. All right, so we want to make sure all this works and runs. Air hose goes to the air hose. All right, that's good there. Let's go through a quick run to make sure all this works. So, all right, lights look good so far on that side. Markers running, that looks good. Nice. Directional, directional. Hazards. All right, hazards are working. All right, let's see. All right, we're going to release the brakes. Brake false, and then a negative value on that. That's good. Check the valves now. All right, when I turn the parking brake back on, this should go to 0.01, so it has a slow leak. Does I built in some slow leaks. You get slow leaks IRL. Yep, so that's good. We got a little leak there. Okay, good. I'm going to do, I hit the front there. So I'm going to do a trolley brake here. Trolley brake is spacebar. So when I press the spacebar, only the... I'm not seeing that happen when I press the spacebar. So the trailer should be locking up. Alright, definitely the trailer brakes came on there. I'm gonna make sure the crane should be fine, but I want to give it a quick run. Speed transmission like this has 4 reverse gears. Alright, so I gotta go back a little bit further. It's one of the reasons why, especially in trucks and stuff, you want good low gearing. Is you can also control your speed with that. So we're going slow with the speed of it. Let's see. All right. Changing this over to remote control will be interesting. Oh, this was cool. I forget you could do this. You can change the rope length. That was a cool update when they did that. And so by doing this, we can get the same rope length, which is helpful in something like this. This was something we used to not be able to do. I might need the ropes to be 2 meters, but I can't remember. So we'll just do 4, see if it works. $4 meters is going to be too much. I got to move that closer. It's not going to work. All right. I think if I get it real tight, I can do 2 meters. Yep. So that's what I was doing before. Let's see. Did I took the wrong one, huh? Fucker. Alright. I'm gonna get up on top just to do this quickly. Yeah, this is a test so we can go back to the career game, hopefully. Alright, that's done. The back one is for this one. It's not for this one. I remember my own shit here from a while ago, I know. Alright, good. Let's start putting that one on. The cool thing about sling loading is it kind of automatically aligns. I can't see with this goddamn container in the way, which is a problem. So yeah, I'm out of practice with this, but you kind of have to drag it toward, and then the other thing is these. I gotta get these reset so they're both in line. One of them was not in line with the other. Alright, there we go. And then we want to kind of go this way a little bit, and then we want to get the container as close to the trailer as possible. That will make it so that it is less likely to tip. So we gotta see how we're tipping it toward. And then we're going more straight up. So that's, see how it's tipping the trailer less. So it's kind of a, gotta kind of work the weight of it. And then I know people complain all the time about springy ropes, but that would cause massive problems if the ropes weren't springy. The fact that the ropes are springy allows that to happen without causing massive issues. Because you'd have problems where if the ropes weren't springy, it would try to break the crane arms as it attached the trailer, and then without that flexibility, you'd have all sorts of stability problems. Alright, good. So that's fine. Let's go ahead and bring this back to workshop. I've saved everything up, and I'm going to go ahead and... what was the one thing I needed to do? Let's look at trolley brake real quick on that. I'm not going to worry about it. Let's go back in the other game. I'm going to go use the facilities. And then we'll go deliver some containers. Hopefully they still have the same ones. I'll be back. Alright, let's read Casper's chat. Alright, let's see. Let's go check those containers first before I get this out and realize the containers aren't the same anymore. Komodo. Yeah, these are worth big money too, Komodo. Alright, let's go do these. Why are those sticking out? Okay, what the hell? Ugh, what's going on here? We just had this. This didn't have this problem. What's going on? That's why right there. Alright. Why are those going out is what I want to know. I literally just played with this. It's an electrical problem. Alright. Still an electrical problem, so. Let's do that and see if these are good now. Alright, that should be fixed now. Yep, that looks good. Alright, it was an electrical problem. We'll fix it on the other trailer. Yeah, so like, what the fuck is going on? Oh, I didn't hook up the lines. That was on the previous save, that's why. Alright. On the previous load. I've got the landing gear down too. Put the landing gear up, that will help. There we go. One thing I think would be cool is more manual parts where you don't need electricity, because like I would like a crank that would give out an RPS signal so that I could raise landing gear and stuff like that without needing power because it's a manual thing. Alright. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the crane to straighten the trailer out, the container out, like that. We drag the container closer to the trailer. And now we're going to straighten it out and put it back down on the ground. So these are the kind of things you'd have to do to readjust the container if it was not right where it needed to be. And because the front's still a little crooked, we're going to have to go out on that. So let's do that. There we go. Yeah, so like if you were to make this with, say, pipes and connectors hanging off this, yes, it would be easier to connect, but like I was saying, you would not want it to be able to quickly grab the trailer. That's when you're going to get some phantom forces where you have an issue where, you know, it can't break the pipe and it can't break the trailer, so it's trying to mag to both of them, and it's going to cause you huge problems. So the better thing, like the ropes will stretch. So when this connects to the trailer, it has the stretch in the ropes, and that protects it from breaking, you know? All right, so we want to push these supports out more. And see where, that's ideally where we want the supports, is straight out. That gives us, like you see, I can hang the container off the side and the trailer stays down. And so now with a little bit of flexibility in the ropes, when we attach these, it doesn't try to rip the cranes apart, and that's going to cause it so you don't have a bunch of phantom forces that you don't want. So that's important. It's one of the things that was really good about hard points is, ooh, that's tight. All right, I'm gonna go the other way. It's one of the good things about hard points is hard points have some give in them. So when you use hard points to lift containers and do stuff like that, when it grabs the connectors, like I did that on Triton. So when you grab Triton with the hard points, or you use some sort of flexible part in there, a hard point somewhere, it allows it so that that can stretch a little bit, and the connectors do not stretch. And that's why a lot of people have these problems with like spinning boats with connectors, because the connector doesn't stretch. So it's putting all that force into the build, and you know that, as you can imagine, is going to cause huge amounts of force, and it causes your boat to spin. You know, so understanding that, you want to put some level of flexibility in your system where you let it flex where you want it to flex, and you're going to get much better performance. So the support legs are better set up on this one. You want them all the way out, then you want to put them down, put a little bit of lean in the trailer, and then let them attach. That's ideally how you want to set this up. And then you always want to load the front of the trailer first, IRL. That's where, you know, you put too much weight in the back, you're picking up the pintle, you're picking up the back of the truck, and that's not good. And it's going to cause huge instability problems. You know, IRL, you want to make sure that you, like for example, if you have two trailers, the heavy trailer should be in the front, and the light trailer should be in the back. There's a, I think it was 60-40. Go 60-40 was the biggest spread you could have. Okay, can we just get that fucking rope here? Come on, guy. All right. Sweet pie playing with a Q-tip. It's our favorite toy in the world, is a Q-tip. I just threw it. I don't know where it went, though. Shit. Oh, I got it. Hopefully I find it. I don't think I have extras, so I'd have to go get extras. Alright. That needs paint. Alright. There we go. I gotta find where I dropped these. I know one's up here. I might be missing one. I thought I threw it this way, but I don't know where it went. I don't see it. I'll go get one. Might have a, I don't know if I have a spare on here, but okay, I do have spares. I foresaw this problem. There we go. Alright, so now let's go up and get the center of gravity closer to the trailer so it's happier there. So it doesn't want to lift the trailer as much, and then go up, and then we can go straight up here by going out and up at the same time, because up is going to try to bring it into the trailer. And so the wider out those supports go, the heavier we can go. We try not to get it swinging if we can avoid it. And ideally we want to get as close to the connectors as possible so that it's not trying to magnet it off to where it needs to go. And that's going to give you the least chance of it trying to snap and act funky. Alright, there we go. No, thank you. Glad you like it. Why is that? These should not be trying to connect here. They should be off at the moment. I don't know why those are on. Alright, it's fine. But let me check the landing gear. Yep, I left them up. All right. Sometimes I put them down for loading to help give me more support. Buddy, not right now. Come here. It's a little laborious tying, having to attach all the containers all the time in this, but again, you want something a little bit more laborious. You can pick a trailer like this if you don't. Like, I have trailers that are quicker to load. I have a bunch of chassis trailers that you load with a container lifter, so kind of what are you feeling like doing? You want to load them up quicker? You want to kind of play around with sling loaders? Sling loaders have their benefits, especially like if you're in a city and you're trying to, you can't get directly to the container. You can do what I did where you kind of move it with the, they use chains often or cables, but you move with the ropes, and that makes it so that it's a little bit more versatile. Don't you tip over, scoundrel. Got the cat distracting me while I'm trying to play. And this is why you don't want to go fast. That would have been a rollover, and then boo-hoo, game, roads suck. It's like, no, your driving sucks. Like, chill out, drive slow. You know how slow I'd be driving on a road like this, IRL? Incredibly slow. You're going a couple miles an hour max. I'd be in first gear doing 3. That's it. Because it's just treacherous. Like, you don't want to roll over. Just drive like that. Once you get the highway, you can zoom, but it's like... it's a big, heavy piece of machinery. It's got a high rollover chance. Just chill out for a little bit. Take your time. You're driving down a complicated mountain road. Take your time. Then when you get the highway, put the pedal to the metal. Yeah, we're doing 30 miles an hour now. Doing well. Doing about 60. Now we're in 18th gear doing 70. So, you want to be slow when you need to be slow, and when you get to a nice smooth flat road, go ahead and hammer. But there's no need to put the hammer down in complicated areas of terrain. It's just you're gonna wreck, and then trust me, it's gonna take a hell of a lot longer getting your crane out and getting your vehicle tipped back up than it is to just take it slow for a couple of seconds and then Make up the time later. Yeah, so we're gonna buy Komodo. Just like in real life, money has value because, you know, you go out, you know, it's an incentive. You go at work, you get those things you want, and so it's like all these missions I've been doing, I need to give myself something for doing it. We got a good bit of cash. Part of that goal is to get Tethys out, but we don't have the fuel infrastructure for Tethys yet. We need to start making our own diesel or produce huge amounts of cash, which is usually by making diesel and jet fuel. And I also want to make some jet fuel for my helicopter and whatnot. And so, you know, just waiting for, you know, it's like not giving yourself a gift for 10 years so you can buy a house. Like, give yourself something small, and maybe it takes you 10.5 years to get the house every once in a while. And then, you know, you don't feel so burned out. And so it's like, with this, we've been making good money in the career game here. Let's go ahead and give ourselves Komodo. And make it as a tool to make more money. So we can look around, see if there's another base we prefer to have that might be further. But for 80 grand, we can make 80 grand pretty good. We're making 20 right now, so right there, that's 25% of the cost of the base in this one run. And so we've been making some good money. And then, especially seeing we were doing some coal, by buying Komodo, we can more readily spawn and despawn things there. Well, that's less of a headache for us, the ability to do that. You know, we also still have a lot of diesel to sell, so we got some liquid cash there. You know, and then to say we want to take these containers with the train, well, we can spawn the lifter, we can spawn the train, put that on there, but then when we get to Komodo, how are we getting it off? Well, one, we could use an add-on. I still haven't made that video yet showing you how to use an add-on, but you can just use an add-on and put it there if you don't want to buy the base yet. But we buy the base, I can spawn it too, so this gives us a little bit more versatility, so I think we'll buy Komodo. Yeah, this is the first time I've started on the Isle of Donk in career, which I think is working out pretty well. Why is that trailer park like that? I'd have to jackknife in to get that. Alright, so good bit of money there. It didn't take long to get out there. You know, if I use one of my quicker loading trailers, it would be faster. Maybe, since we're going to buy this, maybe we'll switch up trailers and use something else to get back. So I want to tip it away a little bit. That just kind of primes us. I want to keep the wheels on the ground, though. So wheels are good grippage, so right about there. And then I had this problem before. Okay, I use this front one here. Alright, that's good. Alright, so now we're going too far and it's swinging, so we want to bring it back in and down more to keep the closer the container is to the trailer, the better. And we also want to stop that swinging, right? Because F equals MA. The A is the acceleration of it swinging, right? And M is the mass. The mass isn't changing, the swing is changing. We can change the speed of it, right? The container stays at a static mass. Can't change that, but we can change how much we're swinging it. And you'll get less of a problem with it. Ideally, I would make it so that front crane doesn't move. Ideally, I'd do 2 cranes on this, just one for each, you know, middle. This saves a lot of space doing that, and also I want them 53-foot trailers. But, you know, the issue with, you know, I have to detach the ropes on this one because this one also joins it. So I could send it where I can detach that with a 0 signal, so it only reads if I have it activated. So you say, hey, I want to activate crane 1, 2, and 3, or I want to activate crane 1 and 2. That will come right off, won't it? Yeah, that's good. All right, so we want to get the center section as close to the middle as possible because, again, we can set the rope length to 2 meters. And we want that to work for us. Out there. All right, good. And this is why I like having no clip and the custom menus. It's like, is it fun to jump up on the tire once in a while and do it? Yeah. Also, like, you want to get moving, just, you can no clip up there and you don't have to take as long. All right, bingo. I gotta go up a little bit on the arm to detach that. Go. Red bus requires servicing. That's an interesting one. Alright. Just take our time when that happens. Stop, and then just chill out. And then, again, get the center of gravity closer to the trailer. Stop the swing. Get the acceleration down. Alright, those magulls should not light up when we're doing nothing, but... Alright, good. You got that done. That's good big cash in the pocket. Let's go buy this, Johnny. Alright, 80. We got a good bit of cash. And we also, if we look at our diesel supply, we've got 13 over here and 6 over here. So we're talking 19 times 3. So we're talking just shy of, so we're talking $57,000 of diesel we got sitting in the base. So we've got that if we need it. Now we can despawn stuff in this base, which is nice. How's it going there, Rasmus? Good to see you. And Exorus, I'll catch up with you guys in a second. All right, Dean Hall Quarry. Dean Hall is over here. So as you can see, that's likely not worth our time. That would be put it on a train, bring it around. I don't have any, I might have train cars that could hold those, but I don't have anything that readily, easily lift up that, trailer. That would be cool to make a trailer picker to put on trains, but we're not going to do that now. I'm just going to no-clip to expedite so I'm not running around like a jackass. That's Sawyer South. That's not happening either. These are annoying now because we don't have good crossovers for the train. JSI, we're not doing a JSI. Sorry, North, we're not doing that either. And sorry, South. None of those are getting done. Let's see if there was any crates. If there are any crates. Any bit of cash we can take just accelerates what we are doing. That's the other thing where people get bored is like they print money too fast and they don't have goals of what they want to spend it on, and so they end up spending all their money and then they can't do the things they want, or they have gobs and gobs of money and then there's no point in doing anything because why would you? You could retire at that point. And so it's like that has no collision. That's interesting. Why doesn't that have a collision? I don't see any contain. I think I got the crate. Alright, good. So we got that done. Let's see what we want to do here. There was that bus that just popped up. Where's that? Okay, that is that's because I had no clip on. So we're not doing that. That's a cool mission, trying to transport the bus using we could use a tow truck, but that's you know, we're not getting into that right now. Let's make sure no clip is off. Let's put this away in the bench. I think what I want to do. Let's read some chat while I'm at it. How's it going, Exorus? Good to see you. Yeah, it's kind of it's like anything, you know. It's you know, it's sometimes it's nice to just make it easy, and sometimes it's nice to, you know, do some sling loading, you know, like this. Like, it's a hell of a lot easier for me to go use one of my forklifts and put it on the trailer, but that's not always what you want, right? You don't always do stuff in life because it's easy. You do stuff because, oftentimes because it's challenging, right? You know, a lot of times the most rewarding things in life are challenging, and sometimes you feel like, you know what, I want to sit there and run around like a jackass and do the sling load. And right now, I'll tell you, I do not want to sling load another set of containers. It's a pain in the ass right now. I just did it. It scratched the itch. I would definitely want to do the other way after doing this because I've already done it, and I'm oh, fucking crane. You know, I don't want to spend the time anymore doing it, and so, you know, after a while it just becomes a chore. And so that's why I like having multiple different styles and types of ways to do these things. Is like you can go ahead and do it when you're feeling it, and then when you're not, you can do something else, you know. Because like right now, I wouldn't want to do this again. It's just too much work at the moment. You know, the other thing too people don't get is I kind of spend money in game like I would in real life. I'm not gonna spend too much money at once, and the problem is you get so poor that you can't invest in anything, you can't do anything. And that quickly becomes a problem where I didn't mean to do that. Where like sometimes you need money to make money, and you get to the point where you have no money left, and then you can't do the things you want to do, and so that's not good either. So you need a good balance there where you have enough money to do some stuff, and you have enough money to do some stuff, buy some stuff, invest, do things you need. Like, you know, if you consider an investment getting a home ship out in the game or getting a new boat out in the game, you might build a new helicopter. Well, you need enough money to be able to spawn that stuff, so you don't want to ever run too ragged on money. Because then you have to start doing things to make a ton of money because you're out, you know? Good to see Rasmus. How are you? Hello. Well, I don't mind selling that diesel because this base, I can buy diesel here. Stop. I can buy diesel here for $2. So anytime I need diesel, I can just buy it, and then it's worth an extra buck to sell it over here. So it's always worth it for me to go do that. An old pickup truck is experiencing mechanical search and locate the emergency. All right, so it's got to be somewhere in here. Let's go do this one. Let's save first. What's today? Today is 12. So that's why I don't need to stockpile the diesel. I have a good ready supply I can buy whenever I need because it's close to my base. And so that's just, it's a good thing to have on hand. If I need to use the diesel, I can use it, but I can also quickly liquidate it to get some money. I forgot Alistair's challenges always have these names on them that I have to go look up. Go check the challenge info on there and find the name of the Wrecker challenge. I think Citrus won that one. That was a good one. I just like participating in the challenges. I don't need to win them all. You know? And the other thing, too, is, like, if you're always striving to win challenges, like, that's the most important thing to you, you build to, like, what that person would want instead of building what you want. And so you want to be within the rules, but you also want to build something that is you, you know? And so sometimes they're going to agree that the you is the best, and sometimes they're not. And at the end of the day, it's like, build what you want to build. Let's see. It's the HD TRT. HD. Yeah, see, that's... All right. Let's go try to find this. Go try to find this pickup. I wonder, so there's something in IRL where you can do camber and caster for your wheels, and so one way you can make your vehicle try to go straighter, I think it's when you put a slight tilt in on the wheels, and the vehicle's going to want to go straight because the left side wants to go to the right and the right side wants to go to the left, and so it inherently wants to go in. And so where you leave it, it's more likely to stay. So that'd be kind of something fun to play with. Alright, so we're within the area. It should be in the road here somewhere. There it is. I think, no, this is lights. Okay. I'm actually, at first I wasn't a huge fan of it because I thought it had that other system for the trailers, but now the trailers they put in the game are pretty good. They don't have any brakes. They're quick, just grab them. The height is correct. My heights are all there, so that works well, so I can do those. I'm going to try to switch over to Discord without, over to OBS without crashing here. All right, there we go. So I was kind of having some fun moving those around. I still think they really should add pallets because that way you can load them on trailers, trucks, trains, whatever. You can do small box trucks. You can do a lot of different stuff with it. I think it's more versatile. I would like them to add that in addition. So that's that right there. These you don't tow, but it's a static vehicle, so I can't tow it. Oh, I might not have a defib on me. Shit. Should have brought something different. Don't think I have a defib on this. No, balls. To do this. Let's see. The fire's out. Let's go ahead and I'm gonna go to. Camber and tow, yeah. Let's see, what do we want? Okay, I have a couple ambulances. This was the Pillock Cramp ambulance. I started work on this. Don't think did I finish it? Looks pretty good. Let's run this. Do I have, defib in here? I could use the hospital bed. Okay, that'll work. Alright, let's take this. This never got finished. Part of like using these builds too is they don't get finished. Go use them and then you'll want to finish them. Oh shit, don't do it, you scoundrel, scabrous dog. Shit. Alright, that vehicle was not finished. Oh, Christ. Alright, that vehicle was not finished. Alright, let's bring that back to the workbench, and then let's get the other ambulance that I think is finished. That vehicle was not tested. I was looking down, looking at the lights button, trying to turn my lights on. Instead of driving like a normal person. Let's take it again, but let's not drive like an asshole. And if the, I was looking at that button instead of just paying attention. Let's not do that again. It's very top heavy. It is a very, very light truck. I should turn the volume down on the siren. Yeah, see how it's a little bit too sensitive on the steering because it's got that high center of gravity. See, I'm going to do it again. I'm not careful. I'm going to go down to 4th gear. I'm just going to rock in 4th. 5th is too fast with the height of this sucker. Let me know if the siren gets too annoying. Because that's 164, this is 108. This is much more reasonable, so I might drop the overall gear ratios on this. Because again, you know, you want usability. If you watch some of the ambulances drive, they don't drive like 150 miles an hour. Because if they wreck, it's worse than if they, you know, didn't show up at all, so. See how top heavy it is? So it shouldn't be going that fast. So what I'll do is I'll drop the whole overall ratio. That will give it better acceleration. The top gear is a really long gear. So we'll get rid of that long gear. Because as a pickup truck, it had a pretty low center of gravity and it wasn't a problem. As an ambulance, it's got a real high center of gravity. Where's my park brake? Space. Okay. Alright, they're going in there. Let's get out of here. So watch the jump from 4 to 5. See how it lugs out the engine a little bit? It's just too high of a gear. 4 is a better gear, so we'll drop the whole ratio on this down. And that will give us better, better performance. Because like right now, we're doing 107 kilometers an hour, so we're doing a little over 60 miles an hour, so that's fine. Maybe another 10 miles an hour is about where we want to be, 70, maybe 80 at most. What was 160? I can't remember what. I'd have to look at 160 around 80, so probably 70 is probably a better bet. We also can buy diesel right here, so there's really no point in me worrying about being precious with my diesel like we were talking about before, because I can buy diesel in large quantities with just the cash I have. So I don't really need to hold on to it, and I can sell it pretty close, so. Alright, nice. Where's the Pillock fuel from? Right there. All right. Don't have a fire extinguisher in this, so this should get a fire extinguisher. No, we do. It's in the back. Okay. Want to make sure we had a fire extinguisher because in the event that we did want or need it, it's there. All right, let's read some chat here. Yeah, I brought a tow truck instead of an ambulance. 100 miles an hour for 160. Yeah, it's just way too fast. All right, it's full. Yeah, the Pillock cramp was made as inspired by the Toyota Hilux Champ, which, again, we can't have nice things in America. And so I would love to have one of those. I'd buy one of those literally tomorrow. I'd buy a Jimny tomorrow. Like, literally, I would go out and buy a Jimny or a Toyota Hilux Champ tomorrow if they were in the U.S. Yeah. Alright, we'll do a couple upgrades to this. Thanks for doing the math there, Rasmus. Alright, let's look at the transmission first. What's this having for a motor? I can't remember. Flat 4? Flat 4, it looks like. Flat 4, yeah. See what we have for ratios here. Facing toward the engine, I'm trying to think. So if I drop this to 1-1, that should drop our whole overall ratio set. And then I can flip it backwards and do 6-5 if I needed to. But let's go ahead and drop the ratio. So it was doing 104 in fourth, and it was doing 164 in fifth. And then center of gravity. Can I get any weight down here? Not really. CG is pretty well distributed. It's just I can't get it low. Got a little prayer putting it here. Come on, you sucker. Try to get the weight a little bit lower because with that top, if you look at the CG, see how high it is? It's pretty well located forward aft. It could go aft a little bit more, but it's pretty high. So let's see if we can't drop it just a touch. No, I need that the way it is. Let's not screw with that right now. Let's just do that. This will make it a little bit off center, but not by much. So if we look, the center is not bad, and that dropped it. So if we go, that's where it was. It moved down and back. That's a little bit better. And then let's go. That's where it was, and then this is where it is now. So we look at the 50-50 weight distribution here. That right there is 8, and then 4 is there. It's a little bit after where we'd want it. Might be a little bit skiddy, but that's not too bad. Let's play with that. So we've dropped the gear ratio down to get a little acceleration out, drop the center of gravity. I want to go... Got a couple buttons I wasn't thrilled with. That they were like that. Alright, that's better. Alright, and then let's see. We had a fire extinguisher in there. That's fine. Did I accidentally just call this? No. Okay, that's good. Door frames. I can play with those. I'll do them now. Oh, stop it. Give me the gray color, you scoundrel. Okay. Oh, this is a pain in the ass half the time I do this shit. Okay. And then volume is way low, is way high. Let's go down like 15%. Let's go play with it. That's better. All right, so we want to make sure it's not too drifty because the center of gravity is more in the ass now. All right, so it's turning nicely. So this is an important thing: is as you move the center of gravity further towards the aft, it's going to it's still going to turn nicely. See how it's making nice circles, and it's drifting nicely. But see how the ass is spinning out? That's because the center of gravity is in the back. So if you want the car to behave like that, that's what you do. And so I'll show you a test here in a second. But so before we were doing 164, and you notice by changing that one gear ratio, we brought all the ratios down, and that's my reverse box. Because my reverse gear there's one gear that's always the same. So if I need to bring all the ratios down, I go to my reverse box, and I bring that one ratio down. And if I need to bring it up, I bring it up. So now we're doing 139. Okay, good. I forgot I'm not in a custom game. Let's be careful here. I'm not in a custom game. All right, let's save this. And let's go in the custom game and make all our changes in the custom game. I already made a save, so it's not a big deal, but let's do... That's why it's called Pillock Cramp. Is because it's the Hilux Champ. All right. All right, so that's saved up. So let's go in the custom game, and I'll kind of show you, I'll play with a couple, show you how you make the balance of a land vehicle act like you want. So like, you know, if you want more of a drifty car, you want to move that center of gravity back. If you move it too far back, you're going to get a situation where, like you saw, we spun out. The back wanted to go forwards because the heaviest part always wants to be in the front. It's like a dart, right? If you put the weight in the back, when you threw the dart, it would do a front flip, and the heavy part would try to go forward. So you put the heavy part in the front and the fins in the back. That's going to help steer it and maintain the direction, and the heavy part's going to keep the point going forwards. And you can move that point forward. You can move that heavy part forward and forward and forward, but the problem is then you become too far forward, and it understeers. You try to make a turn, and it still wants to go forward. So by moving it back, you get better steerability, and there's a balance with all things. So like, we'll do a quick test on that, and I'll kind of show you. It's trying to load something. I don't know what's loading in there. That's taking a second, but it'll take a second. I'll get in there. All right, good. We're in. Let's go. Let's spawn it out there because I'm right by the highway. That's the benefit of that base. It's right by the highway. And I'll kind of show you a couple different examples. So, but you saw that by decreasing that ratio, we went from 164 to 134. If we divide that by 2.2, that is 60, just about 61 miles an hour. So that's a better balance there. All right, so now you see our center of gravity is a little bit towards the back. That gives us a little bit of we can spin out. So let's do this. I'll show you some things. So here, let's drive the car as it is. Now let's just drive in the parking lot here. We'll go do some donuts. We'll kind of see the behavior of the car. All right, so see it turns nicely. And see how the back is trying to spin out? And eventually, it's going to spin out. And that's because that center of gravity is past the midpoint. All right. So if we want that, that's not too bad. A little bit drifty. Let's exacerbate that and show you what it looks like if it's worse. So what we're going to do is stick it way back. So you see where the CG is here. Let's mark it with pink. All right, that's where it is right now. About, it's between those two, right? That's where it was. And so let's go ahead and we'll grab, why does it keep grabbing that? We'll put these right back here. And so now you can see it's quite a bit further aft, right? And so let's go ahead. This should spin out much easier because we've moved that center of gravity back. And so it's going to be unreasonably back heavy, and it's going to want to spin out all the time. So see how much quicker it spins out? And so see how it's like almost uncontrollably spin out now? So like I'm going to try to just take a turn. Try to take a turn, and there goes the ass of the vehicle, and it's hard to control. So that's too far aft. All right, so now let's see what it'd be like if we put it way forward. Give me this, please. Thanks. All right, I gotta find a place I can put these. All right, so now this is pretty far forward. All right, and so you see it's closer to the wheel. Now this is going to be very, very hard to spin out at all. And as I try to turn, it's going to want to go straight, which has its benefits, but also has its drawbacks. That's called understeer. So you go to make a turn, you need to really slow down to make that turn because the car is not going to allow you to do it unless you're going really slow. So here we're making the turn. Watch how wide it is. I'm holding as hard as I can to the left, and see how we can't make that turn at all? That's when your center of gravity is too far forward. So these are some of the simple balancing things you can do. And so like right now, if we measure it, if it's 50-50, right, it doesn't care. It's kind of says, I don't care if I'm going forward or backwards. And that ability is good for like a race car because you can easily turn into a turn. The ass doesn't want to come sliding out as much. And so you can carve corners really quick, really nicely. That's 8, and then that is 5. So right now it's about at 5. Let's see if we can't get it about right here on this crack of the door. And so we want to get it right here on that seam of the door. So what we'll do is we'll delete out that. And you see that is bingo right on the crack of the door. The crack of the door is going to be perfectly 50-50. And so we wanted to add some weight to get the weight down so it doesn't tip over as easily. And now it's about at 50-50. And so this should be probably really, good for performance. So again, remember how the one a couple ones ago where it was the way we had it, it would spin out on us. Ideally, we don't want to spin out, right? I'm trying not to hit telephone poles here. So see how it doesn't want to spin out? The ass doesn't want to spin out. This is pretty good. This is about where we want it. Now 50-50 isn't always what you want. You want a drift car, you want that ass to come out, but you notice I can turn, I can change directions, and it's also not trying to throw me off and tip over. See, I'm trying to get the ass to come out and it won't. I'm holding this as hard as I can to get the ass to spin out, and it won't spin out. So you see how that's pretty good. That's where we want it. So it depends on the characteristics of the vehicle, how you want it to behave. But that's pretty good. That's how I want this to behave. So, and we need to get that center of gravity down just because it was having problems tipping over. It was gonna roll on us, and once it starts to roll, right, you start losing traction on some of your tires, right? And so what's going to happen is as you lose traction, let's say we're making a left turn and it rolls to the right, the left-hand tires start to come off the ground, you lose traction, right? The right side tires, which are still driving, have traction, and so it's going to cause the right side to want to turn more, which is going to exacerbate the rollover, and you're going to, bingo, roll right over. That's why if you slow down or you counter steer to the right, the wheels will come back and it will start to fix that problem. But that's good. The performance is good there. I'm going to lower the yeah, near perfect CG. Yep. Like Rasmus sent me a message on that. Let's go down to 10%, and we'll run that real quick to see what that sounds like. That's good. I can bear that. All right, good. I'm liking this car. This is pretty good here. Let's I'm digging it. But like on a car this size, the 4-cylinder is more than enough power. It's really pretty good. But you can see how you can change that gearbox pretty simply. If anyone needs an explanation of that, we can talk about it. But essentially what you're doing is it's facing the engine. It was at a 6.5. So every ratio is going through that 6.5 because it's reverse, right? Our off is going to be one number, and our on is going to be reverse. And so every gear is going through that reverse gearbox. It was at a 6.5 pointed towards the engine, and then we reduced that to a 1.1, and that made it so that we accelerate better, but we our top speed is lower, and we need to lower top speed. If I wanted to lower our top speed even more, we'd flip the gearbox, the reverse gearbox around, and we would go to 6.5, and that would drop it again, and we would go slower but accelerate a little bit better. Is it 1.6? I thought it was, let me see. Oh, I'm doing meters per second. That's right, yeah. kph to mph. Yeah, 1.6. I was thinking, I was doing 2.2 for meters per second to miles an hour. Yep. Yeah, 1.6. All right, good, good, good. That's good. See if there's anything else we want to work on. Slide axle update, TTIS Mark II, fix TTIS blowout valve, side load. All right, good. So let's go ahead and go back to the career game. So that was fun to work on that a little bit. So, you know, I'll have to do a little, you know, I've been doing my inherent stability videos. You know, somebody told me today that I didn't, you know, insinuate I didn't know what I was talking about with seaplanes. But they didn't read all my other posts. But Reddit is just a sewer half the time. But I need to make a seaplane tutorial. That's something a lot of people would get some benefit out of, I think. All right, let's go ahead and this is a tough base here because we can do containers. Okay, did I not do this one? Okay, this is before I did it. So this is before we went out and did it. Let's go do it now. Now that we have the car going. That's why I like to save before some of these missions. You can always roll it back. And now it's nice, too. I can also run the siren. Yeah, that's low enough that it doesn't bother me, and I could probably run for most of the run with it on. And And the big thing with transmissions is one of the most important thing is the range between each gear. And as long as the range is pretty good between each gear, you can do that thing that I did where you move the whole set of ranges down, the final gear ratios down or up, and the spacing is still good. And that's kind of like, you know, in the tractor trailers I've driven, you can see it the best. Their power range is between 1100 and 1600. You're not getting any more power above 1600, and you're lugging below 1100. So it's this narrow band, and as long as you get the bands right and you always keep yourself in that power range, you're going to get the best performance. This is much more controllable. The steering stability controller could probably use a little bit of knock it down a little bit, because see how jittery I am when I go left, right, left, right. I could also drop the sensitivity on the steering down, but it's not too bad. I would probably do it on the drop the p-value down a little bit. It's overcorrecting. See if I can get a picture here without wrecking. Alright, trying to get a picture without wrecking here. Should have dropped a gear before I did it. Oh, mother, it just blew up. He just fell over. All right, good. It's like all these things, you know, yes, the physics is different in game than it is in real life, but you can use these basic elements of physics to understand how it's going to work in game, and then you can work on your builds to make that happen, you know. It doesn't have to be 100% one-to-one for it to still make positive differences, you know. That's why some people act as though, like, oh, if only the viscosity of the water was perfectly how it is on Earth, I would be able to make perfect vehicles. Or, oh, if the air density was exactly the way it is in real life, I would be able to make perfect airplanes. It's not my designs at all. It's just the world is broken that we're in. And well, the world is likely not going to change much in games, so you can take your ball and go home, or you can just, you know what, let's learn how to work it in game, and the differences are reasonably small. But, you know, you still make a plane that has the center of lift is about the center of gravity, and the center of thrust is in line with the center of gravity. Guess what? It behaves like an airplane. And you have a boat, and you do the same things with a boat. Guess what? It behaves like a boat. And yes, buoyancy is not as much as it is IRL, but we have plenty of tricks and things and methods and techniques we can do to make it work. You know, I think people sometimes think that if it was much more realistic, it would be much easier, and I think it would be the opposite. It would be much harder. You know, you'd be playing with your, you know, you try to make an airplane, it would require a lot of engineering. You'd have to worry about camber of the wing. You'd have to worry about stall. You'd have to worry about things like deep stall, where the wings are stalled out and it's causing dirty air to go over the tail. That's why we have stick shakers in airliners, because, like, if I got in a deep stall, I might not ever be able to get that nose down, and that's the end of it, you know. We have supercritical wings on the jet that I fly, and it's, you know, you'd have to know how to, you know, make a supercritical wing work and do all these things that people think that, oh, you make it more realistic would make it easier. I think that would not. I would love it if it was, but I don't think it's going to make it quote-unquote easier. You know, and you use a bunch of the things we already know to make it work pretty well. I like this little vehicle. Pilot cramp was a good chassis. accidentally kicked it to reverse. I've contemplated putting a system in where I can't go in reverse if I'm at a certain speed, because the way it would work IRL is the gear is essentially moving backwards, and you're not going to be able to get it into reverse unless it's pretty damn close to stopped. And so what I kind of do is, I'm trying to think of the best way to do it. You have to make, the best way to do it is just do engine RPS, and you can't get it in reverse unless you're going, you know, like say 0.1 either side or 0.01 either side of 0. You actually have to be pretty much stopped to get it in reverse. You know, there's a ton of things IRL, especially, you know, aircraft's kind of my, you know, area of expertise the most is, you know, that is just like a whole can of worms. People don't, you know, have any clue. You don't know what you don't know, and that's like, oh my God, like the things that you would have to consider. You know, and then like you see an airplane, like sometimes I'll build these airplanes, I'll do a bunch of things to make them behave realistically. And people are like, oh, why is the nose, you know, why are you gaining altitude when you add flaps? You're adding lift. Why is the nose have to pitch down when you add flaps to maintain altitude? Because you just shifted the center of lift aft toward the back, and you've added a lot of lift. So not only have you added lift, you've moved where the center of lift is. And so you need to put the deck angle down more. So like this happens every day when I'm flying. You put in flaps 20 especially because, you know, we'll usually go to flaps 8, and then we'll go to flaps 20. And when we go to flaps 20, it's a big change from 8. And so that, you know, the difference there, the 12 degrees, is a pretty big difference. And you end up with a situation where if the autopilot's on, we call the autopilot George. George has to drop the nose considerably to maintain altitude. And so you get a big nose down pitching moment. And so the autopilot or you as the pilot need to push the nose down and trim as you're adding that big change in flaps. You know, and so like you get that sometimes. People are like, oh, you know, this is behaving weird. It's like, no, that's how it is. You just never flown an airplane before. You don't know that thing. You know, and so there's always that controversy where even if it was 100% realistic, people would be like, why is it doing this? You know, so it's... Okay, we got that done. I like this little ambulance. I'm gonna check my messages real quick. Alright, good. Just reading some chat here. I got work email too, gotta look at that. Oh, why? What's this? Am I getting money? Alright, let's see. North. Yeah, we checked these norths. Those were no good for us over there. Oh, I just thought about a cool vehicle to make. Let's do something silly here real quick. So, if you guys saw what I worked on last night, I did work shop a little late. This was kind of cool. Worked on a four-wheeler. I had yet to work with the new handlebars. And so I've been wanting to make a one-cylinder. So I started this as a hybrid. And I started as a hybrid. It was working well. It was going like 80 miles an hour. I'm trying to get my hybrid system kind of worked up so it make sure it could make enough power. As a one-cylinder, it could not make enough power to keep the battery charged. Usually I need about a two-cylinder to keep the motors charged, the battery charged up using a motor. And then I made a two-cylinder version of this, and it was going 80 miles an hour. It was great. And then I wanted to make it a one-cylinder, so it's a little bit slower, but it I like that it's a one-cylinder. You can see it vibrating as the p-value is too high still. What's going on here? Something's up. What's up? This was working last night. Why is it not working now? It's the wind and the scoop. It might be wind and scoop. Anyway. Fuel, where's fuel? Now fuel's there, that's fine. Why is this not starting now? Let's check electricity. I did screw around with this for quite a while, playing with it back and forth. What's running park brake? I gotta remember that. That is trigger. Okay. Something's up. See if it's the scoop. Sometimes the scoop, if the wind's too high, the scoop doesn't want to work, so. Quick test we can do is put that on. The other one is if it's raining, the scoop sometimes don't work, so. Yeah, it's the scoop. So this is another thing that was a big thing with those panels getting smaller, was because the panels were smaller, it really allows us to make some small builds. I'm kind of torn on the gearboxes. Like, I get why people they would like more ratios in the gearbox. Like, if they added one more ratio, the problem is you can't control that with a Boolean anymore. You need a composite, which I'm all for. But, it adds some complexity to it where, you know, if you added a composite, you could send a number. So it'd be channel 1, 2, 3, say for 3 speeds and a gearbox, 4. So you could do it with a composite. If they could stack the nodes where you had a, if you had a composite node and a Boolean, then people wouldn't lose that functionality. But yeah, this goes about 24 miles an hour, something like that, which isn't too bad with it being a single cylinder. Let's not blast into shit here. All right, so I'm thinking about building something simple here. So what I was thinking of doing is making one of those, what do they call push carts? The ones on the rail that you pump carts? I can't remember. Which one has the other one too is I haven't used the electric node on these. They added that electric node, which is kind of neat. But only on some of the assemblies. Power, RPS power connection on that one. That one's got a power connection. That one, so these have electric. Okay. These both backwards? They are, okay. Clicking the wrong one. All right, symmetry's not on, is it? All right. Oh, stop it. I would like some more like manual parts, like pedals would be cool. it's likely gonna have to be really goofy to make that work correctly, and I don't want to make it glitchy. Are we in? Which game are we in? I can't tell. Which save are we in? I can tell here on the money. Yeah, so we're in a regular game. Okay. Let's see. What do I want to do? I think we should get back to base. Trying to think of something I could put on the rail. Because we have that new detach function, but let's see what I have for. Some point I want to build another locomotive, but we have the ability to do free electric locomotives now too. No, I should charge the garage battery. I gotta go do that at some point. I'll throw it on the charge tonight. This is just a shunter. It would be kind of cool. Put that on my builds to do here. I fixed the lifting mechanism on the table trail. That's good. Let's try to do electric shunter slash quick rail transpo. It'd be kind of cool. So we have that ability to get free electricity now. It would be kind of neat to be able to go running back and forth on the rails. My crane, I would like to add the ability to attach to the rails. Yeah, that's too bad, Owl. Wish you having a better week. It's alright. Work's more important. Just focus on that. And yeah, hopefully things turn out a little bit better for you. It's always tough when work sucks. Should default to the right, but I don't want to switch until we can see it. Yep. This is meant for a shunter. It's not really meant for ride back and forth, so having something quick that you could kind of zoom back and forth would be kind of fun, I think. We got another hour. No, it should be out. Let's see if it's out. The one thing I was thinking would be kind of cool is if I could, I can use a train car. I've done it before where I essentially bring a pumping car. This is how I move either diesel or jet fuel from my drilling platform onto the train. Is essentially you have a pumping car. And it makes sense, like, I get some people cry when these things get changed, but you used to be able to, as a person, be able to bring more than 40 meters of hose, infinite numbers of distances, and so, like, you can still do it if you want, but you gotta hook it up to a truck. So all I do is I bring a mini truck with me, and I hook the hose to my mini truck, and then I drive the mini truck to where I'm going and hook a different hose and pump it through, so you have a pumping station, instead of dragging hose for, you know, inordinate amounts of time. Of distance, you know, and so like having a train with a pumping truck that can drag the line and then selling the diesel there is another method of doing it. I think the best thing to do is just bring a barge. Sell some of our diesel. We're good on money. We just bought a new base. We're down a little bit, but we still got enough cash to do stuff. I think this is where the mission is over here for the should be right there for the cage that needs to be brought over here. 20 meters of the shark cage. I could do a barge and I could do a tugboat, but it's gonna take some time. It's not worth a lot of money, so it'd have to be something where I'm close to it and I could just run and do it. Probably end up wrapping it up here. Yeah, I should wrap it up here. We'll get back and I'll wrap it up. No, locomotives, just using it for transpo. I don't want to drive, I just want to kind of chill. Oh my god. I'm trying to switch tracks real quick and I can't. Because I'm like zoomed in on my camera with these fucking binoculars. Alright, there we go. Would be good to get back into Derail Valley. I was talking to you yesterday about it. The problem I think with Derail Valley is they really do have the updates spaced out too far away. They're every year, and so like I completely get disengaged with the game. And it's like when people think that stormworks should do that, like make big, you know, empty spans of nothing between, I couldn't disagree more, because it's like those big empty spans of nothing, like people walk away and they never come back. It's like you want to keep people engaged. You want to have like about the time they start to get bored, you want them to get something new and interesting. Some new parts. One can toggle switches by sending a pulse to bool on off 1 on channel. Okay. What's up? Oh, somebody. Are you just saying that in case somebody's interested? How do you switch them? Yeah, I'm not a big fan of them putting the electric node on, but it's like people were asking for what the hell are they called? The overhead lines. And so one way you could do that, you say, okay, the Sawyer Islands are, you know, Europe. And so you have a section of track that has overhead lines, but then people are like, no, I want them over here. And so it's like, is it easy to just put electric nodes? So, and the other thing too is you have Timmies who, they don't know the game yet. And so is it intimidating for them to make, you know, something with an engine? Yes. That's why you see all these people like, oh, the best form of propulsion is jet for a boat. Why? Because it doesn't overheat. And so it's easier for them to just like make sure they limit the RPS. They don't understand how to make an engine not overheat, and so they do the simple thing. And so you need to, you know, I think they're catering to that crowd, and I get that. I'm not a fan of it, and so the real simple thing to do is if you don't want to use something or don't like that, don't use it, you know. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it allows people who don't want to get into that depth that don't have to, and you know what, maybe they will later after they were able to do it easy mode. Maybe they'll be inspired to like, because you know, we all did some things easy mode when we first started because it's difficult, and then now you can yeah, pantograph is what I was thinking of, and then you know, you build some things like, oh, that old electric train I did which just had free electricity, maybe I'll make it a diesel electric now, and then it inspires you to get into it. So you also need to make it approachable, and I think that's why they did it. Is the floor is so high that for some people it's like, you know, it's too challenging, and so you put something simple like, oh, put wheel down, put electric node, yay yay, work. That's why you see a lot of people doing diesel electric everything is because they don't have to make a transmission. They give it a positive number, it goes forward. They give it a negative number, it goes backwards. They give it a 0, it stops. And so for a lot of people, that's the level they're at, and so you know, they can do that. But all right, guys, I think we'll finish up there. That was a good career game. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you're new and you enjoyed it, consider subscribing. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. Good to see everybody, and I will catch you guys in the next one.